Robert Mueller didn't have a good weekend. Why? Because two judges said, hey, what are you doing?
The improbable election of Donald Trump is not probable cause to pursue him.
Russia is going to be a problem for the Democrats unless Mueller's got the goods.
Her nomination will not be derailed by partisan critics. The White House ramping up efforts to confirm Gina Haspel.
She is very qualified. This is nothing more than them trying to undermine this process.
And Rosie O'Donnell is being accused by the New York Post of making illegal campaign donations to at least 5 Democratic candidates.
She used 4 different names, so it seems clear that she knew what she was doing and she was trying to cover her tracks.
A brand new study by the National Association of Scholars paints a pretty bleak picture. About 40% of all American colleges have 0 professors who ID as Republicans. Up in smoke, Brian Kilmeade tonight when he goes home, and his wife will have constructed that stage and a bar in the house. At some point, they're going to bring out a cake.
Yeah, I just got word they just put down the whiskey. They stopped making the whiskey, which I asked them to do. By the way, it's
His kids, by the way.
It's
Redneck whiskey.
Redneck Riviera.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's Big and Rich's.
Yeah, that's their whiskey.
That's their restaurant.
And
that's their whiskey.
And this is how special a day this is. My mom texted me. My mom texted 3 times. She texted me happy birthday. That's how we communicate now.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Why is
Well,
that? She didn't used to text?
No, she's never doesn't text. She's
a caller.
Right. She's a caller.
She wants people who actually use a phone.
Absolutely.
Make phone calls.
Right. And
That's
she always
terrific.
starts with, it's not 541, it's LI1. Like she still is into the letters first.
So Marie Kilmeade, congratulations.
She's
a number of
texting. years
years ago gave birth to Brian Kilmeade.
Does not use autocorrect either. She gets it right the first time.
God bless her. All right, listen, sometimes the president, it appears when he's tweeting, you wonder if autocorrect is helping him with some spelling, but he has just done a couple of tweets in the last hour, and some of them regard what is going on with the Russia and Mueller investigation.
This was one of his latest ones. The Russia witch hunt is rapidly losing credibility. House Intelligence Committee found no collusion, coordination, or anything else with Russia. So now the probe says, okay, what else is there? How about obstruction for a made-up phony crime? There is no O. It's called fighting back. The 13 angry Democrats in charge of the Russian witch hunt are starting to find out that there is a court system in place that actually protects people from injustice. And just wait till the courts get to see your unrevealed conflicts of interest.
And when he's referring to what happened on Friday, Judge T.S. Ellis, and there's been 2 judgments, but that are significant that the president's referring to. This judge, a Reagan appointee, looked at the 18-count indictment on Manafort and said Manafort's lawyers argued that the hearing in Alexandria that the text and bank fraud charges are far ahead afield of most mandate in investigating Russian meddling.
Right.
Says this, you're looking at something that happened in 2006. They didn't even know each other at the time, and it's a good point. And that's what the judge had pointed out, and they don't have a retort. They got to come back with an explanation. So if it's okay to say Michael Cohen's problem belongs in the Southern District of New York, whatever it is, we need to raid 4 of his locations. Well, this has nothing to do with the Manafort. It's nothing to do with this case, the Mueller case. So why is the Manafort case part of the Mueller probe? Because it has nothing to do with the president.
And so this Judge Ellis says, hey, this is real simple. Just show me the scope memo. And what that does is it spells out the scope of the Mueller investigation, but the Department of Justice is saying, no, Judge, that's a big secret. The judge is saying, essentially, that's BS. You got to show it to me. And then there's another judge who, remember you heard about a dozen Russians who were indicted for the troll farm? Dabney Friedrich, that U.S. district judge, she said that the prosecutor's request to put off a scheduled arraignment for Concord Management, which was one of 3 companies that was named in it as being a bot farm, they want to actually go to trial. But they want to see the evidence the government has got, and the government's going, hamana, hamana, hamana. We're not showing anybody the evidence. And so now suddenly it looks as if the legal system is pushing back against the Mueller probe, which looks like might be going a little out of the line.
It was very interesting what Judge Ellis said. Here is the transcript, and if you read it, it's pretty simple. I mean, get through the first 10 pages, and you'll see that he's saying they're going after Manafort because they want to force him to sing about the president. They want to squeeze him. The judge says, you get to tighten the screws, and then they will begin to provide information in what you're really interested in. You're not really interested in Manafort. You're just trying to go after the president.
I don't want to get too far afield, but also over the weekend, Michael Flynn's situation, you have 3 separate FBI people, including James Comey reportedly, even though he denied it, saying that Mike Flynn didn't, to their assessment, he did not knowingly not tell the truth about any back channel to Russia. So they said they never felt when they questioned him that he was lying to them.
But there was some sort of a trap, and he fell through, you know, it looks like he didn't give accurate information. Jason Chaffetz says, look, the judges are pushing back because there's no probable cause and Mueller's in trouble.
The improbable election of Donald Trump is not probable cause to pursue him. The question is, what is it that started this initial probe? And it's become so far and so wide for Judge Ellis to push back on this and say, show us the scope memo. I love the fact that he's pushing back. You don't get unfettered access to go serve anywhere and every place. You pursue the truth, you pursue justice, but you do that through facts and evidence.
Also, there's an item in the Wall Street Journal today that says that Mueller, given the fact that we are 6 months away from the November midterm elections, Mueller has either got to wrap up the investigation or it's going to have to go dark because there's a Department of Justice policy that they do not want to appear to be impacting a U.S. election, despite what happened.
Well, Rudy Giuliani was on some of the Sunday shows talking about
that. Was he?
Yeah, you knew that. We talked about it earlier. I'm sure you watched. But he was talking about, he said this is just a trap, and that's why he doesn't want the president to testify. And then George Stephanopoulos presses him and says, if you tell him the truth, why does he care? It's not a trap. And he says, because they'll find some way to make him look like it's false. And this, in some fantasy world, I'd love to believe they won't do that. But he said special counsel thinks that Comey is Moses, and I happen to think that Comey is Judas.
Wow. That's pretty strong. Just can't wait for the IG report to come out soon to find out really what would happen during the investigation of Hillary Clinton. That's going to be big. As Lisa Page quietly left the scene of the FBI over the weekend.
And apparently, a lot of the stuff that Congress is getting, Mueller himself is able to redact anything he does not want Congress to see, and apparently it's considerable. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about this. We have talked for years about the liberal bias on America's campuses, but the National Association of Scholars, what they did was they looked at the number of schools that don't have any Republicans on the faculty, and the number is jaw-dropping.
What is that number, Steve?
Well, take a look at this, Ainsley. 40%, 39% of colleges have 0 professors who ID as Republicans. They looked at the top 50.
It's a big number.
It's a giant. Think about that. 4 in 10 have 0 Republicans on the faculty.
Look at that, 10.4 to 1.
That's right. The number of Democrats, 10.4 to every Republican.
Did y'all consider this when you were looking at colleges for your kids?
Listen, we've been talking about bias, but it's impossible to find something that is truly fairly balanced.
My son was sending me emails about safe spaces and everything and after the Trump election from where he thought the school that he went to. He said, this is outrageous. They were sending therapists to off-campus apartments in case people just wanted to talk.
Well, 2 of our 3 kids went to pretty...
Glad you're working hard.
Right.
Glad you're saving your money
there. It didn't happen when Adlai Stevenson lost.
Okay, we have some of you weighed in on this. We have a tweet from Salvatore, and it says, parents need to get involved and pay attention to what your kids are learning in school. Ask, what did you learn today? If you don't like what you hear, go confront the teacher and school board. Wake up, America.
Okay, that's at the local level. We're talking about college. Meanwhile, Linda tweeted, any of us attendees or graduates know the prejudice has existed for decades, but now complete indoctrination dominates.
All right, here's a woman that will not be indoctrinated. Here's Jillian Mealy.
Good morning.
Right.
You know, if I were in college, I don't know that I'd want my parents to go confront my teacher. Just throwing that out there, right? Kind of like, got this, guys.
Got to fight your own fights at some point.
I know. All right, let's go ahead and get you caught up on some of the news we're following. Starting with this Fox News alert, a Florida sheriff's deputy fighting for his life after being shot in the head. Deputy William Gentry responding to a call about a cat being shot when the suspect pulled the trigger in Lake Placid.
We would just ask that you continue to pray for Deputy Gentry, and hopefully that will give him the strength to pull through this.
The gunman, identified as Joseph Abels, is charged with attempted murder. He's a convicted felon with a history of violence towards police. Gentry is a 9-year veteran of the force and serves with his brother, a detective. At least 26 homes are destroyed as lava flows intensify from Hawaii's Kilauea volcano, and it's showing no signs of stopping. Brand new video showing molten rock spewing into the air on the Big Island. That hot lava also giving off toxic gas and forcing 1,700 people from their homes. Kilauea is an active volcano, but it hasn't erupted like this since 1955, when it didn't stop for 3 months. Take a look at this. A Colorado Rockies player's bat slips right out of his hands, but just watch where it goes.
Thought he was out of the woods, and then it came back and got him.
Lucky it got him in the shoulder.
Wow.
Yep, that was the bat ricocheting off the dugout and right into the Mets' third base coach. He barely flinches, acting like nothing happened, but the team's good luck ended there. The Mets lost 3-2.
Yeah, they have not won in a while.
Are they
that's been a problem.
Are they calling him Batman now?
Maybe.
All right. Thanks so much, Jillian.
You're welcome.
All right, coming up on this Monday, President Trump has 5 days left to decide whether or not to bail on the Iran nuke deal. UK Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson is meeting with Vice President Mike Pence later today to try to convince him to keep it. He's going to join Brian to explain his point of view next.
Plus, one grandmother had never fired a gun before until it was her or the bad guy.
Kill him before he killed me. I hope I taught him and the rest of them a lesson. Stay the hell out of people's house.
In the streets saying death to America. I said, who signs a deal when they're marching saying death to America?
President Trump has deadline to decide the fate of the Iranian deal just days away, May 12th. Our next guest, who is meeting the vice president today on the very issue, warns it offers the fewest disadvantages and only Iran benefits by withdrawing. Here to explain, British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson. Mr. Secretary, make your case by staying in this deal that you even told us is flawed.
It is, and of course the president is right to see flaws in it, and he set a very reasonable challenge to the world. Was look, Iran is behaving badly. Iran has a tendency to develop intercontinental ballistic missiles. We got to stop that. We got to push back on what Iran is doing in the region. We got to be tougher on Iran, and we got to fix the flaws in the deal. And one of the most important is that this sunset clause, which means that after 2025, the current deal allows Iran to go forward fast with enrichment programs which could lead to a nuclear weapon. Now, and no sanctions go back on. We need to find a way of fixing that, and the president has been right to call attention to it. But you've got to do that without just throwing the baby out with the bathwater, without scrapping the whole thing. Because if you do that, you have to answer the question, what next? What if the Iranians do rush for a nuclear weapon? Are we seriously saying that we're going to bomb those facilities at Qom and Fordow and Natanz? Is that really a realistic possibility?
Mr. Secretary,
or do we work with what we've got and push back on Iran together?
Well, listen, Chairman of Armed Services kind of agrees with you. He doesn't like the deal, but he says what replaces it. Now, are you proposing you take 60 days and say, Mr. President, hold on, the European leaders will come together with some of your concerns and put an overlay on this? Because you know the problem with that is Iran does not want to do anything. Iran says, I'm sticking with this deal. I'm not even talking about a new deal.
Well, that's right, and that is the problem. So what you've got to do is you've got to recognize that the heart of the old deal, of the existing deal, is that it gives Iran some reason to hope that they will have economic benefits in the long run. Actually, they haven't had much in the last few years. In return for which, they don't equip themselves with a nuclear weapon. Let me just remind you, if they do get a nuclear weapon, you're going to get an arms race in the Middle East. You're going to have the Saudis wanting one, the Egyptians, the Emiratis. It's already a very, very dangerous state at the moment. We don't want to go down that route. And as I say, there doesn't seem to me at the moment to be a viable military solution.
All right,
So
Mr. Secretary, I want you to hear
somebody.
somebody you respect, I know, Condoleezza Rice, former Secretary of State.
Yes.
Here's what she said. We asked her a couple of days ago, what if we pull out?
If we get out of this deal, it's going to be just fine.
And she went on to explain that, we'll be back to where we were. But at the premise of fundamentally, they never admitted they had a weapons program. And you saw what the Israelis have proven. They had a weapons program. So you went into, not you, but they went into this deal on a false premise. That's what the president's...
Not quite, if I may say. Actually, what happened, and I saw Benjamin Netanyahu's excellent presentation, but that related to the Iranian program up to 2003. And that was why it was a good idea to get them to do this deal, not to have nuclear weapons. And by the way, we're not just trusting them. Right. We're not just,
I know, but you're not going on military bases. But you're not going on military bases.
Yes.
You have cameras on military bases.
There have been 400 inspections over the last couple of years. They have.
You call ahead of time, though, don't you?
What they've done is, and the International Atomic Energy Agency has confirmed that Iran is in compliance. They haven't been rushing for a nuke. Their breakout. Let me remind you, before the deal was done. Before the deal was done, they could have had a nuke, and they were massively enriching uranium.
Mr. Secretary, I just want to finish. I have one last question for you. Please. Why do you need President Trump to tell you to do the things that should have been in this deal in the first place? Why does he have to demand this? You should have demanded this.
I wasn't in office then. that's
but your country should have.
Yeah, well, so should America, to be totally fair. We were all in it. Okay. But, yes, the president has a legitimate point. He set a challenge for the world. We think that what you can do is be tougher on Iran, address the concerns of the president, and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, not junk a deal. Because, as I say, Plan B does not seem to me to be particularly well developed at this stage.
Gotcha. Mr. Secretary, we have to go. But listen, you have your three separate nations have addressed the president in the last 10 days, very respectfully saying stay in. We'll see if the president accepts the delay, stays in, or gets out. Good luck with your meeting today,
Thank
sir.
you so much. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your time.
No, it's a pleasure.
All right, straight ahead. The phrase, "In God We Trust," now under attack by Democrats.
This is a God who spoke against money, and the money I carry in my wallet has to say, "In God we trust." I think that's offensive.
Is our nation's motto really offensive? We'll debate that.
Some quick Monday morning headlines. First up, weeks after pledging to stop financing companies that make military-style firearms for civilians, Bank of America will help bankrupt Remington Outdoor get back on its corporate feet. The bank contributing more than $43 million to a larger lending package. That agreement was made before the bank announced its new firearm pledge. And first, it was Effingham, and now even more Illinois counties are becoming sanctuary for gun owners. At least 5 rural counties passing resolutions vowing to protect Second Amendment rights if the state passes tougher gun laws. Illinois now considering a ban on bump stocks and a size limit for certain magazines. All right, that is some of the news, but not all of it, Ainsley.
All right, thank you, Steve. Our national motto, "In God We Trust," causing debate in Minnesota over a bill allowing schools to voluntarily display it on posters. Some lawmakers are arguing against it.
I'm wondering if Senator Hall would feel the same if students walked in and instead of the word God, the word Allah, which is the word for God in the Muslim religion, welcome students to their school.
This is a God who spoke against money, and the money I carry in my wallet has to say, "In God we trust." I think that's offensive.
Is our nation's motto really that offensive? Here to debate, former press assistant for former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum, Lauren DeBellis Appel, and Minnesota State Senator John Marty, who you just heard in that soundbite arguing against the bill. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you, Ainsley.
You're welcome. So, Senator Marty, I wanted to start with you because we heard in that soundbite that you said you found In God We Trust, you find that offensive, that's on the money that's in your wallet. Why do you feel it's offensive?
Sure. First of all, I don't think the motto is offensive. What I find offensive is government is choosing to sanction a certain religious motto, and it's trying to push that on all Americans. I objected to the proposal for two reasons. One, Senator Hall, the author of it, was saying 21% of Americans don't believe in any God. And despite his saying he wants to be welcoming and uniting people, this is the opposite of that for that 21%. It's something that's foreign to them. It's not welcoming. The second reason I oppose it and strongly oppose it is, as a Christian, on behalf of the other 79% who do believe in a God, I don't think it's appropriate for government to be choosing the terminology, the words, how and where we're pushing things. To me, again, as I said, the motto is not what's offensive. It's the fact that government and politicians are trying to sanction it and tell us where. I think that's a very scary thing, and I don't think that's helpful at all. It doesn't promote religion. It doesn't promote welcoming to the schools and anywhere else.
Lauren, what's your opinion?
You know, Democrats have abandoned people of faith in this country and a large portion of their voting base. And if you think back to the 2012 Democratic Convention, they booed God. They tried to add God back into their platform at the Democratic Convention, and they booed God. And this was in Charlotte. And in Charlotte, we just recently saw the funeral service for Billy Graham. Billy Graham spoke at Bill Clinton's inauguration. And look how far the Democratic Party has come from the time of Bill Clinton's inauguration to the 2012 convention, where God was booed. This is exactly why people of faith have gotten behind President Trump, because they have seen the Democratic Party in this war on people of faith, in this war on God, and they've seen their religious freedoms be assaulted.
Senator Dan Hall, the Republican who has authored this legislation that you know very well, he's saying that this is just voluntary. If a school decides that they want to put In God We Trust, if they want to display that on their campus, they can.
Right. And see, what it leads to is my other debater is saying the opposite thing, talking about war on religion. You know the irony of this? I came home from church yesterday, found a vile, obscene phone call on my home answering machine saying I was anti-religion. Coming home from church to a message saying I'm anti-religion. I got lots of emails and text messages and other things saying this. You know, that's not who I am. And my father's a theologian.
So
I've got generations of Lutheran ministers in this. Go ahead.
So how do you explain it? Because I think when people hear this story, we've taken God out of so much of our country, and our country was founded on this. What is so wrong with goodness and forgiveness and treat your neighbor as yourself? Why do you want to take that out?
Right. That's exactly what I want, to treat our neighbors as ourselves, to be welcoming to all people, regardless of whether they have religious faith or not. That's what we ought to be doing.
But you love them enough to tell them about God and God's mercy.
Let me finish. If you want to have an established church, the Norwegian, the Scandinavian governments have an official religion. Everybody's a member of it, but nobody goes to church or anything. If you want to promote religion, let people promote it. Let churches, let families promote it on their own. It's not government. People who say they hate government should not want government to be sanctioning certain religious terminology, certain religious mottos. That's not what government should be doing. Government should be staying out of religion. That's the whole point of the First Amendment.
Lauren, I'll give you the last word. What are your fears when it comes to this?
Being anti-God is the only form of bigotry left in this country that's acceptable. We've got so many problems in our school system right now, public safety being at the top of the list. And, you know, this is what we're focusing on. We're focusing on picking on people's faith right now. And if God is the problem in this country, what in the world is the solution? I'm a mom of 2 elementary school girls, and it really bothers me and it concerns me that we have politicians on a taxpayer dime that are now focused more on keeping God out of schools and less on keeping our kids safe in schools.
As a person of faith, I find it offensive what you just said. I find what you said very offensive, and I'm sorry. I'm a church-going person. I'm sorry.
Lauren, Senator, thanks so much for being with us. God bless you.
Thanks, Ainsley.
Well, it's being called a medical miracle. A teenage boy declared brain dead. His parents getting ready to pull the plug, and then he woke up. Plus, Nancy Pelosi vows Democrats will take back the House in the midterms, and she wants to be Speaker again. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy has something to say about that next.
got to get Republicans elected. We've got to do great in 18. Those midterms, we have to do them. We need judges who will enforce our laws, protect our sovereignty, and uphold our American way of life.
So there you've got the president at the NRA convention down in Dallas making the case there should be more Republicans elected to Congress. You know who thinks that's a great idea?
Who's that?
The guy who's standing right there at Statuary Hall. He is the House Majority Leader, Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me back on.
You know, you watch all the channels, and they're all talking about this blue wave. The Democrats are just going to take over pretty much everything. But you say not so fast, right?
I say not so fast because think for one moment, if your viewers closed their eyes, thought the day after the November election that the Democrats took the majority and Nancy Pelosi gave a victory speech, that she was going to become the Speaker, why would that make you excited? That tax cut that 90% of Americans just got, she thinks is crumbs. She held all the Democrats to vote no on that. The idea of Nancy as Speaker going forward, what are they running on? That they shut the government down? That they fight us every step of the way to stop our opioid legislation moving through to help those who are addicted? That she stops this president from any appointment that he can get to help this government move forward? And now the latest, when we're sitting trying to cut this wasteful spending with rescissions, she's sitting there saying no. But under Bill Clinton, they did it 111 times. Ronald Reagan, 214 times. We made a promise to the American public. And the worst part of it all, unemployment today is at its lowest point it's been in almost 20 years. If you have somebody in college, no longer are they fearful that they have to move back home with their parents. They're going into one of the strongest places to find a job in its economy than we've ever seen.
Well, Congressman, you have a couple of things. Number one, there's a big story in the Hill today that Democrats are starting to panic because they're running on the anti-Trump agenda, which has been failing so miserably. But on your side, you've got to find a way to get wages to rise and gas to decrease, because that affects everyday Americans. As strong as the economy's been, the wage growth has not been strong, and gas is going up. How do you explain both those things?
Well, I'm from California. The way the gas went up the fastest was the Democrats raised the taxes on it. We're actually in California, we just submitted an initiative to repeal that gasoline tax, actually lower the price for individuals, just like we did in the tax code. Look what we did in the tax code. 48 of the 50 states now have a lower electrical bill because they passed on those tax savings. This is what we were able to do. America is about to become energy independent, much because of what we've been able to do of repealing that regulatory world and let people go out, use the ability to find that oil and gas, and make us energy independent at the same time with wind and solar.
Congressman, there are 4 primaries tomorrow. How confident are you that the Republicans can keep the majority?
I'm very confident that we can keep the majority. Look, I know history plays against us, that only 2 times since World War II on an off presidential election, the party in power having the White House actually gained seats. But remember this, you have one of the best economies moving forward. 90% of America just got a tax cut in the process. They got their wages increasing. You've got from a point where you're seeing, look what we did with combating human trafficking. For 10 years we tried to do this. 70% of all that happens on the web. But you know what? We just signed that sitting in the Oval Office. Backpage is shut down. Those survivors are thanking this president. Then look at what's happening in North and South Korea. That has never taken place. You're going to have security in the world. We made the funding to make sure our military is strong again. We are losing more men and women in training than we are in combat. That part has to stop. And that's exactly what we put forward. And then we're going to come forward and find that we can make these cuts that on the money that's been sitting in these funds all the way back to since the stimulus. That's wasted money that we could actually save the taxpayer.
Well, one of the primary states is West Virginia. Tomorrow, the state will go ahead and pick the Republican to challenge Joe Manchin. But the president, in the last 90 minutes, Kevin, tweeted this out. To the great people of West Virginia, we have together a really great chance to keep making a big difference. Problem is, Don Blankenship, currently running for Senate, can't win the general election in your state. No way. Remember Alabama. Vote Representative Jenkins or Attorney General Morrissey. And what he's talking about is the fact that apparently, according to the polls right now, Mr. Blankenship is leading the other two by at least 5, despite the fact that he did prison time regarding the Massey coal mine disaster.
Yes, and he served that time in my district when he was serving in prison. And the other part is he's actually a constituent of Nevada. He can't even vote in this election. So I think the president is right here. He's leading. He's saying, let's be smart. Let's look long term. Let's not have these internal battles. Let's put the very best person forward that we can get a majority. Because look what's happening inside the Senate. They are stopping everything. While the House passed all 12 approach bills, Schumer shut the government down and wouldn't hold and pass anything over there. When you look at those 1,200 positions that have to be confirmed, if you count the last 6 presidencies, the number of cloture votes on that, it's about 24. In this year, 88. The Democrats are trying to stop everything. So what the president is saying, let's help this country. Let's put America first, find the very best person in West Virginia, and not have a situation where we can't even compete in November.
Now, the people behind you there in Statuary Hall have significance, don't they?
Yes, they do. Right after I leave here, I'm giving them a tour of the floor. This is the honor flight from Bakersfield, California. There's 16 veterans, 3 from World War II and 13 from Korea. I actually flew out of Bakersfield with them. We do this on a regular basis. How we treat our veterans says a lot about the values of this country. We cannot do enough for these individuals that gave us our freedoms and defended it.
That's nice. Leader, one final question. There's chatter that the Speaker Ryan may be leaving sooner than later. Just curious what you've heard.
I haven't heard anything like that. Look, the most important thing we can do is continue to build on the legislative successes we have. We are fighting for our opioid bills. We just passed 60 of them in the Subcommittee on Energy and Commerce, and the Democrats fought us.
And by the way, the Democrats are outraising you guys significantly. That's got to worry you.
It worries me, but I'm on the road. I was just with the vice president. We did very well in California. People wouldn't suspect. But I'm going to tell you this. People can underestimate us. They've done that before. And this is the same thing Nancy Pelosi said in the time before. All they want to do is capture this government to try to impeach this president or stop anything from happening or raising your taxes. I think the American public is too smart for that. They've watched having unemployment the lowest it's been in 18 years. They've watched the world become safer, and there's so much more we can do to make this country greater.
Okay. Congressman, thanks so much. And give all those folks on the honor flight hugs and kisses from us, because we are so grateful for their service.
I will.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. 18 minutes before the top of the hour. Ainsley, what's coming up?
The caravan of illegal immigrants still parked down at the border, trying to get into the country, and now Attorney General Jeff Sessions is going to go down there to personally send them a message, and we're live next.
And remember this from Janice's interview with the owner of the horse, Justify?
Will you join us if this horse wins?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely.
He is a man of his word. The owner of the Kentucky Derby winner joins us live.
Monday morning to you, back with some quick headlines. Look at this video. The Carnival Dream Cruise is back in port after a flooding nightmare at sea. A water main break causing gallons of water to pour into a hallway on the ship. About 50 rooms were affected by the flood. Some passengers say they had to sleep on yoga mats in the spa. Vacationers praising crew members who frantically scooped up water with buckets. Carnival offering a full refund and a discount on a future cruise. And this is such an incredible story. A teenage boy regains consciousness a day after his parents agreed to donate his organs. 13-year-old Trenton McKinley fractured his skull in a dune buggy accident 2 months ago, leaving him brain dead for days. Right before doctors were about to take him off life support in Alabama, he came back to life. Before that moment, Trenton thought he was in heaven.
I was walking down. It was more like an open field, walking straight. There's no other explanation but God. There's no other way that I could have came back.
Trenton's family says he's getting stronger every day. That is an amazing story, guys.
God bless him. That is a great story. Thanks, Jillian. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is heading to our southern border today.
Mr. Sessions will discuss immigration with the head of ICE as illegal border crossings surge. Brian?
All right, Griff Jenkins joins us live in Washington with more. Hey, Griff.
Hey, Brian. Good morning and happy birthday to you.
Thank you
now,
very
listen,
much.
The Attorney General travels to San Diego today to hold a press conference at 4 p.m. with outgoing ICE Director Thomas Homan. Location is unknown, but San Diego is, of course, home to one of America's busiest ports of entry at San Ysidro, and that's where that caravan of migrants have been crossing. According to local media reports in San Diego, approximately 228 members of that caravan, which would essentially be all of them, have now crossed as of yesterday morning. Now, the group itself, Pueblo Sin Fronteras, or People Without Borders, was saying going into the weekend that the number of migrants to cross was at 158, according to their numbers. So this essentially would have been the last 70 or so. But what's more astonishing is, according to Customs and Border Protection, there was a slight increase in illegal crossings overall when compared to last month, but a 223% increase compared to April of last year. This after Attorney General Sessions announced last week that he is sending more prosecutors and immigration judges to the border to try and stop the problem. And of course, on Saturday, we saw the president calling for tougher borders. So it will be interesting to see, guys, what comes of this press conference today. I reached out to that group of caravan folks to see if they had a comment. They did not.
All right. Do they call themselves caravan folks?
They do. They call themselves caravan folks. They are People Without Borders, Pueblo Sin Fronteras, and they have been doing this yearly, but for some reason this time they wanted to make a big splash in the media.
Well, that's because they had some reporters embedded with them reporting live from the caravan, and we knew all about it. Griff, excellent report. Thank you.
Very professional.
Thank you.
For a change?
No, it was just, it just struck me as professional.
Thanks, Griff.
Indeed. Meanwhile, speaking of professional, the owner of Justify, the horse, promised Janice he'd come on our show if the horse won the Kentucky Derby. He's a man of his word. The horse won. He's next.
But first, let's check in with Bill Hemmer.
Good-looking horse, too.
Who, by the way, lent me his white shirt.
How'd it work?
It worked great.
Yeah.
I mean,
this shirt,
on Friday, I was able to fill in for Jesse, but I didn't want to wear the same outfit.
I see.
And I forgot it, and Hemmer stepped up with a tie and a shirt for me.
At least I
So
could
y'all
do.
are the same size.
You know what this was, Ainsley? This was my birthday present to Brian. So happy birthday, brother.
Thank you very much, Bill. I appreciate it.
Don't take it to the dry cleaners. Just put it back in my office. Thanks, guys. Good morning on a Monday. Breaking news overnight. Entire homes wiped out by steaming lava. What a scene we have today. Is John Kerry privately working to keep the Iran nuclear deal? And the president's legal team says the Mueller probe has acted in bad faith. That's their case. How their strategy could be changing today. Also, Senator Tim Scott coming up in moments. We'll see you in 10 minutes, guys. Top of the hour.
Tell me about Justify. Everyone is talking about this horse.
The horse is definitely going to have a real shot today. He's special.
While I have Saul, will you join us if this horse wins?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely.
And here he is, still drinking his Dunkin' Donuts.
It's the same one.
That's so great. All right, you're a finance guy. You live in Boston. How did you get into horse racing?
It's totally random. I had a good friend of mine about 4 years ago said, listen, I think you really like the sport. You know, there's gambling and, you know, the art of doing a deal, and it's great with your family.
Drinking.
And drinking coffee.
Pretty
and
ladies
drinking
with
vodka.
hats.
Yeah. So we put a group together with 4 of us, and we bought a bunch of horses, and we ended up having one really good one in the first group.
I mean, you didn't know much about horse racing, right?
Nothing. Literally nothing. And we ended up with this horse that ended up winning the Breeders' Cup the first year. And took us on a crazy journey. She was named after my wife, named Lady Eli. So that was a nice way to get the family involved. And it's been a great journey since.
This horse is, I think, is going to win it all. I do.
What are the odds? Triple Crown.
Oh, man. I mean, you got to get lucky. You got to stay healthy. It's obviously super hard to
Are you
do.
talking about you or the horse?
I'm not healthy.
But listen, there is something about this horse. I mean, everyone was talking about this horse in comparison to American Pharoah and some of the greatest horses of all time.
He's done nothing wrong. He's got all the, all the ingredients to be really special. I think he'll be a big favorite in the Preakness, and then you come back in the Belmont, and that is a
Staying healthy, and that's long distance, right?
Long distance.
And I love this jockey. The jockey said, I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for blessing us on this afternoon and blessing us with this amazing horse. How precious
Jesus
is
loves
that?
horse racing.
He's a big fan. He's a big fan.
So you're glad you did it? This has been a good investment. Were you willing to lose your money and not be successful?
Yeah, I think you have to. I think you have to, you know, it's like anything you're investing in. But you obviously have the ability to get lucky and do well as well.
And can I tell you, this guy is a family guy, because we wanted you to come on Sunday after the race at Kentucky, and he was like, I have a lacrosse game with my sons, but maybe on Monday. So, you know, wonderful family guy. And, you know, the races, they're becoming a family event. I saw a lot of families getting involved, and, you know, there's something about horse racing I really, truly love. Those 2 minutes really brings the country together. You know, I sometimes think we're so divided sometimes, but everyone was watching that race, and in the mud, Justified came through.
It was awesome.
I was pulling for Audible, but that's your horse, too.
And his filly won in the Oaks as well.
Wow.
Yeah,
You had a good weekend, didn't you?
Crazy weekend. Yeah, hard to.
Can you play the lottery with me?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, scratch something off.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
a lot for having me.
Hope we can turn around for you. Obviously. More Fox and Friends in just a moment.
Let's fly away.